Phillip Schofield, Narcissist, Part 3. We continue with our examination of Phillip Schofield. The family returned to the United Kingdom when Tim, the brother who's now in prison, was 16 and Philip was 23. From this point, the brothers' paths diverged. Philip rose from working in the broom cupboard on children's BBC with Gordon the Gopher to star in Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. Now, of course, to be involved in television presentation and to appear on stage requires some narcissistic traits in terms of pride, vanity, showmanship. Again, doesn't mean that somebody's a narcissist, but it does, in order to get up and be a performer, demonstrate that narcissistic traits are evident and that they're of strength. His brother then went on to do various jobs. He opened a record shop in Newquay, and his famous older brother did the honours, ceremoniously cutting the ribbon. Again, not something that's commensurate with suggesting that they didn't have a bond. Tim then worked as a DJ on various local radio stations, just as Philip had done, his big brother even visiting him at the studios from time to time, which caused a flutter. Again, not the behaviour of someone where there is no bond. Tim is believed to have worked for a short time on local radio in Plymouth, just like his older brother, before moving to Devon Air, based in Exeter. He was a launch presenter for the station's successor, Gemini Radio, in 1995. A fellow presenter explained, "We were a small, close-knit team, but Tim was always on the fringes. He wasn't a loner as such, but he was a little bit aloof from the rest of us. He didn't really socialise with us and didn't join the station football team, which did a lot of public engagements. He did a lot of gigging in local clubs, though." By then, Philip was living in London, having married his girlfriend Steph and started a family. In 2002, he got his biggest break when he was asked to take over at This Morning. Whether that helped focus Tim's mind about his future broadcasting prospects isn't known, but around that time he decided to change career and work in IT. He became training manager at Cosmic, a website designer based in East Devon, where he was later made a director. Tim's next move was to his most recent job as a civilian IT consultant, working with Avon and Somerset Police. It was there where the attacks on the boy which led to the charges against him took place. He also got married in Cambridge, South Devon, to Petra. She's a freelance theatre director and acting tutor. Coincidentally, both Philip and Tim are gay men who married women and each had 2 children with their wives. Again, there's nothing necessarily wrong with individuals that, because for whatever they view as society, might deem it inappropriate for them to come out. But it is interesting that both men have turned out this way. Is that something that has resulted from the way that they were treated as children, that they found themselves having to put forward a facade of their likes and desires whilst hiding what was really what they were after? Is it perhaps the case that both show sexual fluidity, which is another hallmark of narcissists? The fact is that Philip came out in 2020. More about that in due course. Tim told the court that he was aware from the age of 6 or 7 that he was gay. He said he'd always been attracted to young-looking gay men and spoke in court about cruising the streets in Cornwall with a male friend when he was a teenager to see who they could bring home and have sex with. Phillip Schofield, of course, has essentially disowned his brother as a consequence of his recent conviction. But the biggest thing that arises from that is the fact that he maintained to the police that there was no real brotherly bond between the two of them, whereas the evidence showed to the contrary. This could perhaps be just a response of Phillip Schofield responding with reduced emotional empathy towards his brother as a consequence of the allegations that were being made against his brother, something which he didn't want to be connected with. Alternatively, it might be a representation of a revision of history, an absence of emotional empathy for his brother, and the way that he maintained a facade with regard to being helpful towards his brother, regarding himself as being a kind and helpful person. Phillip Schofield's best known for his appearances on This Morning, and it's there that numerous problems have arisen, which provide us with further evidence to examine. Back in 2019, Schofield was reported to have been feuding with his This Morning co-stars, and that apparently the atmosphere behind the scenes had turned toxic. He was said to be at the centre of a civil war at the ITV programme, amid claims his attitude has impacted his professional relationships with his colleagues, including Ruth Langsford and Holly Willoughby. Apparently, 8 different ITV presenters broke their silence about the situation, while the show's Friday presenter, Ruth Langsford, is said to have made an official complaint about Phillip Schofield. Even his close bond with co-host and close friend Holly was reported to have become strained. A denial was issued, potentially first line of the twin line to the Narcissist defence, about the situation behind the scenes, denying that it had become toxic in recent months, with employees too scared to speak out publicly for fear of backlash. A source had explained for so long people had been silenced because they're scared for their job. If they speak out publicly about the atmosphere, they fear there could be repercussions. An insider has explained there have been issues. There have been issues between Holly and Phillip. The reports also came after Ruth and her husband Eamon Holmes, and we'll be hearing more from him in due course, were noticeably absent from This Morning Christmas party. Also missing from the photo were regulars Rylan Clark Neal, Alison Hammond and Gino D'Acampo. The This Morning team toasted the festive season with a lavish lunch on Wednesday, which carried on into the evening. Presenters, Holly and Phil, along with their celeb team, including Love Island star Maura Higgins and Rochelle Humes, celebrated at a private dining room in London, tucking into a lavish lunch. So there is a suggestion of him feuding with his co-stars, which shows argumentativeness, haughty dismissiveness, potentially arrogant. Of course, it could be said that he's on the receiving end of the unpleasant treatment, but it is noteworthy that there is a description of complaints by Ruth Langsford, also Eamon Holmes, and also that other regular co-stars were not in attendance. There, of course, might have been legitimate reasons for that, but for so many notable individuals not to be attending, and for the rumours to be of a toxic environment, suggests that this may well be emanating from Schofield. Yet there's more, because it isn't the first time that Schofield's alleged feuds have hit the headlines. Amanda Holden has spoken publicly about the matter. I've explained elsewhere that Amanda Holden is a narcissist, but as you've known from other works, that doesn't mean that a narcissist isn't necessarily telling the truth about what has gone on. Britain's Got Talent judge Amanda said she believes the TV favourite, Schofield, sabotaged her chances of filling in on This Morning in 2018, when Holly Willoughby hosted I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Reports have long been rife about troubles between the TV hosts, with the latest detail of the story claiming Amanda headed to the top by lobbying ITV executives over the animosity after Phil allegedly pushed for Rochelle Humes to take the job. Amanda first worked with Phillip when she stepped into Holly's shoes when the This Morning star took a year off the show to have a third baby 4 years ago in October 2014. A former daytime TV executive explained Phillip actively campaigned for Rochelle to get the job despite Amanda being more experienced. It was claimed that Amanda confronted Phillip during an advert break when the judge was interviewed by Phil and Holly on This Morning in October, days after Rochelle was confirmed to be stepping in. She made it clear that she felt very much let down. He was lost for words but didn't have much time to respond to Amanda's claims because the show was going back on air. Neither of them realised that Amanda could be overheard by most of the team because she was still wearing her mic pack. Thus, feuds with co-hosts. Now, of course, television's a febrile atmosphere. There's pressure, there are various competing egos, etc. But it's painting a picture of an individual who appears to be difficult to get along with, demonstrating a sense of entitlement as him believing himself to be star of the show, potentially lack of accountability for his behaviours, argumentative activities, and therefore some indicators starting to manifest. We will continue the examination of Mr. Schofield in part 4.